Hi, I'm Roy Collin, and I'm the creator of the podcast. You can find everything about me and the 5 podcasts on bio.link/podcaster, and you'll find it in the QR code there. I'd also like to thank my sponsors. If you or someone you know is struggling with anxiety and want to know how to be 100% anxiety free in 6 weeks without therapy or drugs, Daniel Packard Anxiety Solution Program Company offers a 6 weeks system that permanently solves anxiety at an astounding 90% success rate. People who join the program only pay at the end once they have clear, measurable results. If you're interested in learning more, go to permanentanxietysolutions.com, where you can book a free consultation with Daniel. Do you have high blood pressure and want to get off the meds? Doctors are amazed at what Zona Plus can do. Get a $50 discount with my code ROY. Go to zona.com/discount/ROY, and you see the QR code for all my sponsors down at the end. Quality Polish manufacturer of metal products for telecommunication and workshop equipment and other metals. If you'd like a brochure, you see it in the QR code, and you just let us know if you would like a quotation shipped internationally and very competitive rates. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast.
Welcome to the Crypto Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on thecryptopodcast.org. My guest today, he's the president and co-founder of Block3 Strategy Group, which exists to educate businesses, brands, and entrepreneurs how to leverage blockchain technology to generate new channels of income. He's a registered investment advisor representative, Web3 public speaker, a published author of Warren Buffett in a Web3 World. Please welcome, from North Carolina, Matthew Snider.
Good morning. Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you very much. So first of all, I suppose with the book, when you have somebody's name like that, do you need to get permission? Do you know him, or how that came about?
I wish I knew him, but that's a great question. So the benefit is that all of the shareholder letters that we got the information from, it's about 1,200 pages over 60 years of shareholder letters from Warren Buffett. They're all public information. So he's the author of these shareholder letters. They're all publicly traded stocks. So there was actually no problem with it. And, from a legal perspective, we didn't really take a lot of content from him. So my counsel and lawyer and co-founder said, this is kind of de minimis in a sense. We're just taking small quotes here and there from these shareholder letters, at least one from maybe each year. And then we put our own twist and spin from an investment perspective on how people in the Web3 and crypto space can use his wisdom to help build their own portfolios in the Web3 space.
Yeah, excellent. So I suppose before we delve into that and the other things, you might just tell me your own kind of crypto journey.
Sure, yeah. Started back in 2015, 2016, when a buddy of mine, said, have you heard about this thing called Bitcoin? And I'd heard about it, and we started, buying beers for each other, figuring out how to, transfer money from one wallet to the next. And I got really, really deep into it. And this was probably around the time I started reading these Warren Buffett shareholder letters. I was really big into investments. I was going through business school. And it was very eye-opening for me that this whole new ecosystem, this internet of value that was coming to us. And I got really, really excited about it. And so as a consultant, I started leading lunch and learns for our team and started doing pitch competitions for senior leadership to get them to say, hey, these are technologies that you should be looking at in order to kind of build go-to-market solutions, engage with clients, build new ways to provide services. And this was back in 2017, 2018, where they're like, nah, we don't want to deal with any of that. It sounds like kind of hokey. And then in 2020, 2021, the sort of NFT boom took off. And I thought, well, what if I just created a landing page called NFT Consulting? And I wonder if anybody would call me. And sure enough, just the phone would not stop ringing off the hook. I got a winery, and I've got an artist, and I've got all this content, and I want to do all these things. And the use cases were just so fascinating. And then over the course of maybe a year of that project, the company actually got bought by the company that I work with now, which is Block3 Strategy Group. So I worked with a couple of founders and co-partners, and we worked together to put some capital together for some investments. And we wanted to bring the consulting side along with this. And then we kind of moved from there. But it's been an incredible journey, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of this sort of new burgeoning technology.
Brilliant. And like with the NFTs, I mean, I find it fascinating, the different things you can do. So was it something that you were creating your own platform, or you were helping the people create the NFTs and put them on someone else's platform?
Yeah, so the user interface and the way that people engage with this technology is still very, very clunky, right? And so a lot of the inquiries that I got were from people that said, I've got really great content, I've got a really good use case, but I have no idea what a wallet is, what MetaMask is, how OpenSea works. Can you help me do this? And of course, a big challenge with this is everybody in this space has their own wallet and they have their own security phrases and their own assets and everything. And very, very quickly and apparently, I realized like, I can't do this for you because then I would have access to your stuff and I don't want that at all. So it became this kind of circus of me doing Zoom calls, trying to like share screen and get people to say like, okay, you gotta send this here and you gotta click this here. So it was always a little bit comical. I did end up working for a couple different agencies as a strategic consultant where projects would come to them. They would get a sense of how they might go about engaging with these partners. So it wasn't ever really our own platform or our own token or anything like that, but I just love being able to help people and educate them in this space. And I was really excited that people who really weren't crypto specific or crypto curious were coming in saying like, oh, can I do this with this? And a lot of times I could say, yeah, you absolutely can. There were times where people come up and say, I've got this art from another musician, or I've got these posters from all these concerts. And the first question I would ask is, do you own this IP? And they would go, no. And I was like, okay, well, we have to kind of back up from there. So there was always kind of this weird delineation of like, do you own the IP? Do you not own the IP? I'm not a lawyer, but like it was very apparent and easy to kind of get people separated into two different categories that way.
And because I mean, I've looked at a lot of the different platforms. I mean, obviously OpenSea, and I was kind of disgusted with the way that they were performing, because if something goes wrong, they kind of go, oh, it's not our problem, yet they're taking the commission. And I was like, okay, this is a bit strange. And the other thing was, I saw people selling stuff with utilities, and some, like with me, I was trying to get something and it just fell through because they were fraudulent, the people selling it. But like, you didn't know if the utility was used in when somebody was selling it on. There was no way of finding out. And then there was other because I'm getting a lot of opportunity, fantastic opportunities for NFTs. But every time I go, I think this one is decent, and I kind of be talking to people, and I'd be like, and then it's gone, it disappears, and it's like, it's still kind of a Wild West.
Yeah, it really, really is, and it's too bad, but it's also the sandbox in which we play in, right? Like there's a reason that there's rules and regulations in place, which we're hoping soon can come from places like the SEC to give us some guide rails on this stuff. But when you don't have those rules and regulations, it's kind of this rampant world where people can run around and break stuff or scam people, right? So that does happen, and it's too bad. But I also think it helps people get kind of keener on the security aspects of this. How do we do this in a secure way? How do we do this in a safe way to make sure we protect consumers? And certainly from the redemption perspective, I can empathize. There's a lot of, how do we know this got used for this or not for that, or whatever the case may be. So certainly understand, and it is still a very wild place indeed.
And like you mentioned, the SEC, like the reality is people don't really have trust in any government organizations because they see what's going on around the world and just all the investments and everything. And it's, I don't know, is it that it should be managed by individuals, that we see stuff and we flag it, and not that it can be done in a group, because I could say let's get 20 of us together, that it's nobody knows. I think that's the only way to do it, because when you get government involved, yeah, we want the government when we get robbed, but when we're making money, we want them to stay away. It's a kind of catch-22 situation.
That's actually a really great perspective. I really, really like that. And I think too, for all the mantra of us being our own bank, like that's all great. And then you send the wrong transaction and you're like, oh, I lost $1,000 or whatever the thing is. And like, you can call Bank of America or any bank that's like your national bank or a country bank, and they'll figure out a way to get that money back to you. But in this sense, it's not there. So we kind of have this, want to have our cake and eat it too. Like I want all this freedom to be my own bank, but like, oh, I make really bad decisions or fat finger mistakes or whatever the case is, that like I send money to the wrong person, and it's the blockchain, right? It's not going to lie. So you send it to this person. It's not that's not the code's fault.
And like with MetaMask, because you see when you kind of go into, I don't know, is it the Apple Store or something? I remember saying it was like about 15% of people that were really putting it down, they got caught. So it seems to be easy enough for spammers to kind of get into your, which means it's your assets, whether you bought something, an NFT or whatever you have, which is scary because you think, okay, I'm safe enough with this. But the reality is most people actually don't know how to protect themselves properly.
Exactly. And I just actually had a client, it was the first sort of iteration I'd seen of this. And now I'm seeing it more and more where they're an artist on Instagram and they're using Instagram to do their marketing and promotion. And people are coming to them saying, I want to buy your art, I want to buy your stuff. And they want to do all this weird, click this link, fill out this thing. I can't go buy it on OpenSea because I've got to do X, Y, or Z. And all these excuses are ridiculous. Like, go on the platform, open your MetaMask and buy it. There's no reason why these people can't do that if they're serious about buying your product. And so turns out there's just a bunch of scammers, even on the Instagram side of things, because anything with the term NFT is kind of flagged as this, like, oh, maybe we can go after this content creator or whatever the case may be. So definitely an interesting space right now for sure.
And with, I mean, like we've seen the Bored Apes, and you know, I've come across people. There was even somebody on the show that had invested in one. I don't personally get why you would think something is worth like that, but I understand when there's kind of rare, and that's how it kind of works. But even the spammers, they're creating like Bored Apes or something like that, and it's nearly the exact same thing. And unfortunately, it's like the situation where you had the actual gold Bitcoin as a coin. There was people selling them in Romania at half the price, pretending it was Bitcoin, and people were buying it because they were like, look at the market price, and they fell for it. And it's the same with this. It's kind of, but if, like, say you were an artist and I just take your picture, I digitize it and I upload it, the way that the kind of blockchain technology is kind of done, it's going to be very hard for you to actually come after me.
Yeah, correct. I think that that's all very, very true, but there's also no difference with art in general, right? Like, I could copy and paste your art and go, if you and I live in different countries, I could go copy and paste your art and go put it in the coffee shop next door and nobody would know, right? The same exact
well, they
thing
would, because it's so bad.
Well, they like that, but that's the thing is we have this notion that, like, oh, it's bad, people are stealing art and all this stuff, but like the same exact thing can happen without blockchain. People are just doing it in a different space. And I think too, if you were big enough, if the art was good enough, if you had a big enough following, people might know that, oh, this is the fake one or this isn't the real one. And that's a good spot to be in. The challenge is you've got all these artists who are really trying to make a name for themselves or really trying to find another way to sell their stuff, which is great. Like, I'm all about channels of revenue, but if the art's not good, you can't, like, you're not going to sell it because it's an NFT. And that was a big challenge too, to talk to clients, is be real and transparent with them and say, look, because you use this technology is not going to make the art sell better. What it's going to do is make it traceable and give you perpetual returns on your your equity in the project. So that was always like an interesting thing. And people like to blame NFTs for X or crypto for Y. And it's like the same stuff happens in Web 2. We just are kind of so used to it that we don't think of it that way.
And is there any platform that you found was the best one for NFTs?
The reason why, and I don't love OpenSea or Broken Sea as people call it, right? But it's been the steadfast partner for people trying to get into the space. I remember first trying, thinking, oh, there's Super Rare and Rareable and OpenSea and all these different platforms, and I couldn't really tell what the difference was, but the user interface for OpenSea was pretty clear. What I also find ironic is that all the other platforms do very similar things, and they basically copied the user interface. It looks almost identical, like X2, Y2, Rareable in some sense. They all look very similar for how they are all from a user interface perspective. So they took that kind of template and said, okay, maybe we'll change some of the functionality and some of the user experience, but it's going to look very much the same. So from a client-facing perspective, it was always the easiest platform to get people used to. It's also the most trafficked in many senses. So people are trying to get their art seen. That's probably a really good way to go. And the other challenge is you have some platforms that are invite only, right? And your art may not be in a position where they're going to feature that, or if you haven't been on there before, it's hard to get hard to get on there again or featured. So I always thought that was a challenge. So I don't love OpenSea, but I think it's probably one of the best ones out there. I think there's a lot of challenges with companies like Blur that use farming capabilities to sort of artificially manipulate prices or keep them depressed because they incentivize people to buy and sell. I think that that's not great for the environment, but kind of ironically, that's a benefit of the blockchain, right? Is that you can actually create and gamify things like that where people can earn money in a sense. But it's an unfortunate thing when whales can come in and buy a bunch of stuff and then artificially manipulate the price of particular collections in the market.
And what I liked is it kind of developed, because at the start you could only have, like, say, one wallet when you're doing the royalties, but they've changed that now. So for example, if you were bringing in people and you could then set it up that, okay, I'm taking X%, and it's done through every sale, which I think is safer, because not everyone is ethical. So somebody's pretending they're helping somebody, and if they saw that this is going through the roof, they're not going to transfer the money to the other guy, which I'm sure it's like in real life with all the music industry, with everything. So this way, at least if it's set up properly from the start, at least everyone gets what they've agreed.
Absolutely. And I think the royalty breakup by wallet is probably one of the most impressive functionality pieces of the blockchain and this whole NFT ecosystem. The fact that I can create something permissionless, without permission, right? I can create a concept, or I can create a project, and I could add a charitable organization to that project, give them a wallet. Now, most of them don't have wallets, so that's kind of its own barrier, but you could do that, and it's in perpetuity, and it's a smart contract. It can never be debated, it can never be changed. And that's amazing. That gives people an incredible opportunity to not only partner with other people in a trustless way. You and I could go in on a contract together and never have to know whether or not the other one had done anything nefarious. But if we're in the smart contracts, it's going to be done and taken care of, which is great. So there's a lot of really cool things in here that are kind of underpinning the foundation of why this is amazing technology. And yeah, there's going to be bad actors and kind of weird fluff and stuff that happens. But this is, again, the sandbox that we're kind of in before we kind of hop that chasm from the early adopters to more of a mass adoption perspective.
So regarding investing then, so like I know you kind of talk about passive investing, which everybody likes that you don't have to be doing too much work, but you might show the pros and cons, kind of talk us through it.
Sure. And as Warren Buffett said, if you can't make money while you sleep, you're going to work until you die. So being able to find different ways to leverage passive income for your NFTs, your crypto assets, digital assets, as well as traditional assets, securities in the stock market, et cetera. Passive income is super, super important. At the Web2 space, we kind of have dividends, right? This is like the oldest school kind of passive income. You have a traditional stock over a period of a quarter or a year, whatever. They pay you a small percentage just for holding that token or that security. And that's one great way to do it. There's a couple other more nuanced technical ways that you can do this in the sort of traditional stock market, but a little bit beyond this scope. In the Web3 sense, we've got a lot of this sort of decentralized finance or DeFi mechanisms that allow us to do this. So staking is a really popular one, right? You can do this on many exchanges too, where basically you just commit your tokens for a specified period of time. It's no different than like a CD, right? Or a certificate of deposit or a savings account that earns a small bit of interest. That's technically passive income. So these staking opportunities, maybe 4, 5, 6% on your returns, not like the Celsius days when you could go get 12% on your Bitcoin, like many of us did. They kind of said, ooh, these outrageous APYs, this is great. But if the project doesn't last a full year, how can it have a full APY, annual percentage yield? So staking is a big one. Yield farming is another one that's using like liquidity pools. It's a little bit more risky because, again, there's a lot of market manipulation. So some of that stuff can not go in your favor. There's this term, that's an amazing term called impermanent loss, which is a really big problem in the space where people can, it's basically just a way to lose money. But you can earn passive income in that sense. And NFTs do the same thing. So we've got a couple of mutant apes with our company, and those are all being staked to earn ape coin as well. So a lot of these NFT projects can do something similar where you can actually put that asset to work and have it earn you a token in return. And now you don't have to do anything.
What's this ape coin you said, is it?
Yeah, so the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the Mutant Apes, the Bored Ape Kennel Club, the Yuga Labs ecosystem, the Yuga Labs team behind it released something called ApeCoin. So they have their own cryptocurrency, their own crypto token. It's also going to be used to power their ecosystem in the other side, which is their metaverse that's going to be launching this quarter. So now you've got a full ecosystem, almost close to 200,000 NFTs in this one ecosystem alone. You've got the apes, the mutants, the dogs, you've got codas, you've got land, you've got all this stuff. And people are now being able to go in and play different kinds of games and things like that. And they have to spend ApeCoin to be able to speed up processes or add traits and features to their NFTs and things like that. There was a really great way that they've been doing this with merchandise, right? So they had a partnership with Gucci where you could have an NFT that would be, have a little Gucci thing on it, and then they would send you the actual Gucci like necklace, right? So now you've got like a physical and a digital product as a result of that. But all this is purchased using ApeCoin. So the idea is that, of course, over time, more and more people get into this ecosystem, use the token, et cetera. And then, of course, I guess price go up is it's the joke, right? Yeah.
And with the metaverse, because I think like with Facebook, I don't think it worked the way they wanted, but I'm seeing now that there's companies planning on doing events and everything. And because I don't think there's much trust around Facebook, especially with the way they did censorship and everything. And I think rightly so as well. I think it should be broke up. I mean, they're saying that WhatsApp is encrypted. It's not 100%. It's not. And there's nothing worse than that when they're telling you something and it's a lie. But there's a lot of other companies that are doing this and like events. And I saw something recently that like basically going to be sporting events, but you've got the VR and you're like, or you're going into a disco and stuff like that. And it sounds kind of cool, but at the same time, are we ruining humanity? Because unfortunately, people get too deep into this thing and they just switch off from life and they feel like they're, engaging because I'm at a disco, I'm chatting to you and we go, pick up a few girls and stuff like that. But the reality is, is it destroying what we've got?
When you take the subway, I was in New York recently, and you take the subway or you take the bus, and everybody's just like looking at their phone, right? That's a metaverse.
Yeah,
we're already there, right? It's just a matter of the fact that we actually put the thing on our face, and we're in this space. But unlike my phone, if I wanted to go see a Manchester United game, for example, and I wanted to be in like the front row, they have the opportunity to sell tickets virtually to people that get an incredible experience from the benefit of their own home, without ever having to go to a rowdy stadium with 100,000 people or whatever and pay a lot more tickets. So from an experience perspective, the opportunities are endless and just so fascinating, because the technology is getting to a point right now where you can do this and it's done in 4K, like it's done in like high definition. You can be in metaverses, you can be in a virtual space, and they can have a TV projected on a wall of live TV and live sports. And that's incredible. And now they're even there's projects that I've seen now that are doing it with AI sports, where they're going to have teams that just get created and then they play each other. Like all this stuff is fascinating, and it's just a new user experience. And that's really what's a cool thing for people is, how do we enjoy life and do things in life differently than we are before? So yeah, it's going to ruin humanity, just like the phones ruined humanity, and like we're all in love with like Candy Crush and video games and all this kind of stuff. You can choose to fight it, or you could just go walk around in nature, and that's also totally cool. But I think that it's very exciting to see how this stuff goes. And to your point about Meta, I am fully convinced and love the fact that we have legacy technology companies that are trying so hard to be part of this, and consumers are like, no, it's okay. You should just stick to social media and be the king of social media. Let other people figure out this sort of meta thing. So I really like when these big companies kind of try to come in and do something and make a big splash and try to own a new corner of the space in some sense. And it's going to be totally disrupted from brand new actors in the space. And that's what really excites me, is looking for those new opportunities and those companies that are coming forward.
Something that with the matches, I always wondered why they've never done this, that basically you have the cameras on the player. So for especially Messi, I mean, you see the prices they're paying in America just to see
That's
Messi.
right.
Like if you have a camera on him, not only, you know, like how many people would pay to just see him, kind of, that they are him as such running around. And I mean,
just like POV of Messi, that would be insane.
Like that in I mean, all sports, like,
yeah,
you know, the amount of money that they would generate from that, it's
like Simone Biles, like running on the pad and doing the jump in the Olympics, or even
exactly.
the I like that. Let's figure that out. Let's do the POV of athletes. That's
because that's something I think people would really enjoy. Like,
oh yeah, that's how in the States they did the football at the NFL. They started doing these cameras like right on the field, so they actually replicated Madden, which is like a huge NFL game in the States, and they replicated the views from a video game in the actual live game, so people would get a sense that they're part of it because they get so familiar with how to play Madden. So definitely a great use case. I think we've got something cooking for sure.
Right. And with the kind of the equipment then, like, it was an Oculus or something like that was the main one that came out. Is there a lot of different ones, and what's the price point for these things?
So the Oculus 3 came out. That's the Meta one. That's the Facebook one. They bought Oculus a number of years ago, and they're in their kind of third version. Apple, I think that one's probably $500 or $600 US. They're always kind of like on a medium consumer standpoint. They want to have some really good technology, but they realize that they got to lower the price a bit. The Apple one was launched, I believe, maybe this summer, June, July, May is when they talked about it. It's their Vision Pro. And that's cool because it's got a glass piece over it. So you can actually turn it off and see through it. But then you're just wearing this thing the whole time. I don't know. But they got like a battery pack, and that one's like $1,500 or $2,000 or something. There's a couple others that are like a less expensive, and even Google makes these ones in like a cardboard box that you can use your phone, like an HTC phone or a Google Android
the
phone.
first ones I had seen that, and then I got a plastic thing you put and it was like you were doing like roller coasters, and I thought that was going to kind of develop, but kind of just died a death, and it was like the stuff that you could get on the phone for it didn't really progress, and I think people just stopped using them.
I Christmas is around the corner, so I may have to like treat myself, but like I don't have one. I don't have any sort of VR system, and I love scary video games, and so I am like now they've made some really good ones. So like I'm really excited to try to play some of these games in the ecosystem, and also try to hook into the metaverse too, like or any of the number of different metaverses. But loading a wallet in there, having a cryptocurrency aspect to any of the pieces that you might be doing virtually is coming very, very soon.
Very good. And which kind of exchanges then and wallets, what's your kind of recommendation?
You know, I think staying power has a lot of value for me. So I've had a MetaMask since 2016. Now I've got multiple ones. I use Ledger hardware wallets for stuff that we need to keep in a cold wallet. I actually used, I went to a college yesterday and gave them paper wallets from like a Bitcoin.com thing. So I loaded cryptocurrency onto a paper wallet. Here's a public address, and then there's a private address, and then they, as college kids, they don't have any crypto, so that now I'm the first one for them, like getting crypto, and they have like $2 or $4 on here. So paper wallets are really good too. That's what I use, and then like Coinbase for transfers. But I mean, that's based in the US, that's kind of the easiest one to get. So, I think staying power is really important. What's been around the longest, what's going to be the easiest from a customer support perspective, if you do have any issue.
And like, because I saw, I don't know, was it on your Instagram or something? I had seen that paper wallet thing that you do. So how is that something that you print off, or how'd you get it? And it's probably like, it's a great way of like a business card as well. If you're kind of, if you're giving someone $2, $4, whatever, but just to actually, if you're the one that's introducing them to blockchain technology, they're never going to forget you. And to be honest, they'll probably keep that forever, because it's kind of like, this is my first ever transaction.
Yeah, it's a really cool way. So I love like educating on this. I used the same exercise when I did a lunch and learn a number of years ago with the exact same wallet company, Bitcoin.com. I was really impressed with it. The best part is it's a wallet you can get on your application, like on your phone. No email, no phone number. You can be totally anonymous on this thing. And what they do is online, you can create paper wallets, and you can create 100 of them or 1,000 of them, but then you just like print them. And then actually here, you like print them, and they, I'm trying to see if I have the one that's like actually, here, it's like open. And so you kind of have this like paper like this, and it's got instructions here, and then you can fold it. And then here is your private key, and then here's your public address. So when you fold it like this, it holds your private key safe and secure. No 12-word seed phrases or anything like that. I do not recommend this as like a safe way to hold cryptocurrency. It's a novel way to show people who are interested in crypto how to use it. And then here's your public address. So what I did is I took $50 worth of Bitcoin Cash, mostly because it's not so volatile, but it's also extremely cheap and extremely fast. So I can do this 50 times or 30 times, and it doesn't cost me maybe $1 or $2 in fees. And it can load on there pretty quickly. And so you put $2, $4, or $6 on here, and that was my goal. You know, I have a bunch that have 2, I have some that have 4, and I have rare ones that have $6, right? And so then they see this and they go, okay, so I have to go download the app. I have to open this. I have to now understand the difference between a public and a private key. And I can use this and scan this QR code, and it'll say, do you want to claim your $4 or $2 or $6? And they don't know what it is. So they're like, oh, and they get it. And they're like, oh, I got $6. Of course, when I went and did it yesterday, the prices went down a little bit. So people were like, I got $5.96. They're like, welcome to holding your bags. Welcome to the game. It could have easily been $7, but it's not. So and they love it. They get a kick out of it, and it's just a great way to get in the mindset. Like, we use QR codes, we understand how this stuff works, but now you get to do it with a cryptocurrency, and that's it's pretty powerful.
No, I think it's fantastic because, like, with even you see here, I've got my QR codes, because before when you were doing everybody thought it was going to die a death because you had to have a certain app for nearly every one, and people was like, it's not worth the hassle. Now you just take out your camera and there it goes. So I think it's a fantastic way of actually kind of getting people on board, because the more people that start doing this, the more we can kind of get away from, you know, the control that's going on in the world. And I think we can make things better. And there's a lot of people as well that they're kind of coming together once they understand it, and they're getting creative, and and that's how we're seeing, you know, progress in what's going on with the Bitcoin. I'm getting different people coming on, and they're giving me all different names. I mean, some people say it's a group of people. Some people think it's a government organization that done it. I've heard of Craig Wright recently, and he's actually got all the different things. Another one saying, no, he's a scammer. He's this, he's that. Like, some people are saying he's like God, and it's like, oh, what's your thoughts? Who created Bitcoin?
So you mean for Satoshi Nakamoto? I think it's in Hungary. There is an incredible bust statue of a faceless kind of person with a hoodie on. And it's meant to be a Bitcoin Satoshi Nakamoto memoir that is just, it's celebrating the fact that we don't know. I think what's so important is I don't care. I'm just so thankful that somebody did something in some way to try to create a new way for people to exchange, a new way for people to engage. And my hope is that it's not some giant government conspiracy, but with my luck, it is. And you know, I really want to believe the myth that this person just faded away into existence and we'll never know like who this person is. That's what I just kind of sit with it. And I love not knowing. I think that it would kind of ruin the mystique a little bit if somebody did pop out and say, hey, this is the real thing. I also hope this person is not living. This is a terrible thing to say, but like, if they do control that much Bitcoin and they are alive and they do have access to that wallet, that's also a notion that like some of this could all come crashing down. And I don't really love that. So you really got to operate with a little bit of faith and hope that maybe this was just somebody who had like some pure genius and just to do something right for the world decided to just step away and not really deal with it because they knew it would be detrimental. So
And if you look at the timing as well, because it was like when everybody lost everything during the crash, and it was it could have been somebody that was pissed off that really understood what they were doing and said, we're not going to have this again. And hopefully it's something like that. But yeah, there's so many things going around. But that, yeah, it's
like the equivalent of the Big Bang, right? Like you kind of don't know how and why it happened. You're happy it did, because now we're in this place where, holy cow, people are building crazy technologies and cool use cases and user experiences and new ways to engage with people and unbank people, or bank people that are unbanked. You got 2.5 billion people on this planet that don't have a bank account. And now we have like ways to do that are really, really powerful.
And with all the kind of scamming and everything that's going on, like what kind of red flags is there that you could just tip people off? Because unfortunately there's so many people out there that are catching them the whole time, and that's why I kind of set this up. It's like, you know, people, they saw Bitcoin, they saw all these Dogecoins and all these different things, and they think, I'll invest $100 and I'll get 10 million back, like, and the reality is some of them then see it go up and then they put all their life savings and then they just cry for the rest of the year, like.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that is like it's not super difficult for people to understand, but they don't want to hear it. It's like, there's no free money, right? There's no reason why you or me or anybody are going to get a 10,000x return or something, like, because you click a link, right? You've been selected for this prize, right? I've never ever won a prize in my life like that. There's no way that somebody is just going to randomly pick me to win something. So the number one thing is, don't click links. Don't believe that people are being nice to you because they found you on Telegram or Instagram or Twitter, anything like that. Anybody that reaches out to you, hey, I saw your profile, I want to do a trade, like, chances are, unless you can vouch for somebody or you get somebody to like vouch for them, these people are really bad actors. So I think just don't click links and be very careful, and then don't give your seed passes out. Never type it in. Somebody mentioned the other day that their ledger reset automatically. Like, they plugged in their ledger and it said, oh, you got to reset it, type in, you want to recover your wallet, type in the seed phrase. And I was listening to it like, yeah, that's how they reset it. But wouldn't it be really creepy if somebody had the ability to automatically like set something on your computer that told you to reset your ledger so that you would have to input the phrase again? Like, that's the point, is somebody's getting you to do that. So if anybody ever asks you to type in anything or put anything in there, you just got to say no, no, thank you. And you can keep your $100 or whatever, right? That's the best thing. Nobody can get scammed from these. I had to tell them though, like, don't spend all your $2 in one store. Don't give anybody this seed phrase either, because it's gonna pay for your tuition.
And with, say, pensions, then is there investments that you can put your pension towards? And it's something that I like covering, because just the one when I was in Ireland, I had full contributions, so I never had put in myself, but still. And like every year they're like, if it goes up 6%, it'll be worth this. If it goes up 8%, it'll be worth this. And for the last 10 years, it's kind of the exact same as it was. And everyone I talked to, like, I've talked to one guy, he was the managing director of a big company, and it's like everyone's disappointed with the returns from their pension. And with kind of crypto, or what's the best, because I mean, with your experience, what's the best way of actually having a good return on your pension?
So I'm huge fan of dollar cost averaging. Of course, you just got to keep putting away little bits at a time. You can, at least in the United States, there are some Bitcoin 401ks, like you can put Bitcoin in your pension. Again, I would only recommend very small percentages of kind of like what I call the barbell strategy, not what I call, but it's known as the barbell strategy, right? You have 95% of your assets in fairly risk averse opportunities, or whatever those assets are. And then you have a very small percentage that is wildly volatile, right? Just a very small set, because if they do go bonkers, like you want to expose yourself to 100x returns all day, but you want to do it in a way that's very manageable and it's not going to wreck your account. So those are probably two different strategies that I would think of in that sense.
And I mean, like if we look at, say, Vanguard, BlackRock, and few other ones, I mean, they're controlling the world. They've got the Pepsi and they've got the Coca-Cola, making look like their competitors, and they seem to be kind of dictating the world. When people are putting their money into different pensions, do you have any say in making sure that it can go to companies that are kind of helping mankind?
A lot of times, it's a great question. A lot of times they have, at least in the United States, they have what they call self-directed individual retirement accounts. That's where you can get the same benefits where it's pre-tax, right? So a lot of stuff from a pension is like pre-tax that gets put kind of in this space. Some pensions have the ability, like a self-directed IRA, where you can choose your own allocations for that. So if you want to either support specific companies or industries, whatever, you totally can. The challenge with that is that for the average investor, the average person, pension money should really just be in an index, like a wide index fund that just carries the top 500 companies, the index of the world market, anything like that. If you have to operate, kind of like obvious in some sense, but now that I'm saying it, it's always funny. We operate with the pension idea that money will be worth more in the future. The only way that money is worth more in the future is if we as a society, as a global economy, continue to prosper, be productive, produce materials, produce products and services that people buy and sell. So if you have that thesis, if you believe that things are going to over time get better and better and better, then your best bet is just to stay in an index fund and just not worry about it, because you can't time the market. Emotions are going to get a hold of you. Good times, bad times, you're going to freak out or think you're a genius, and you're going to make wrong moves. And those things, those wrong moves, they cause tax consequences. They stop the compounding efforts of really powerful returns. Warren Buffett made 20% a year for 65 years. That doesn't sound like a lot, but over 65 years, that's a 36 million% return. So like slow and steady wins the race in investing, as long as you have a very long runway to do it, and as long as you believe that the economy is going to continue to grow over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
And just kind of finally going into the book, like when, with all your research and what you've created, what were the kind of shocking things that you came across?
I think the losses were always astonishing to look at, because you hear all these things. Oh, Warren Buffett made this killer move on American Express, or he bought Geico, and he bought See's Candy. He bought a candy company, right? And do you know See's Candy?
No.
Okay, so he bought it's like a West Coast based candy company, and they sell chocolates that are not Godiva, like super expensive, or Swedish chocolates or anything like that, but they're also not like Crunch or Kit Kats and things like that. They're like this really good chocolate. I am like a huge See's fan. So he buys these companies and makes these crazy deals, but he also bought encyclopedia companies like World Book. He said no to the internet. What is this thing? Like, nobody wants this technology, like all this stuff. You got to go buy a World Book. You got to go buy encyclopedias. This is like in the 1990s. Like, I think my mom had a bunch of these. And the other one was Drexel Shoe. All right, he paid something like $500 million for a shoe company, but he didn't pay for it in cash. He paid for a lot of it in Berkshire Hathaway stock. So that company ends up going completely bankrupt, and their shares in Berkshire are worth like in the billions of dollars, because that's where they held on to that. And so it's like, I should have paid them in cash. What was I thinking? So those are the things, like, I love hearing about the failures of these huge gargantuan behemoth people that we hold up kind of in this pedestal, and realize that they make idiot like moves too, and they let emotions get the hold of them. They have miscalculations about the future and misperceptions about where technology is going to go. And so I think that is always like the most fascinating thing. And then the other one was learning that he drank about a 6-pack of Coca-Cola a day. And in the book, we actually did, I'm happy to send you a copy too. In the book, he did, I did the math over a 60-year career. That was something like 10,000 gallons of Coca-Cola. And the dude's going to be 90. He was 93 this year. So,
and Bill Gates drinks a load of Coke as well, because I saw him in the documentary, and it's like, they're still alive. So obviously Coke doesn't kill you.
Makes you wonder if they like send him Coca-Cola, but it's actually like really good water or something like that, and he thinks he's drinking Coke, but it's like absolutely not Coca-Cola. So yeah.
No, brilliant. So yeah, I mean, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Matthew, you
Yeah.
might let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, really, really appreciate it. Again, my name is Matthew Snider. I head Block 3 Strategy Group. You can find us at Block 3 Strategy on Twitter, or at block3strategy.io online. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on all those platforms. So if you have any questions, if you ever need advice about investments, or you need advice about sort of the crypto space, anything like that, we're happy to give guidance. And just really appreciate the opportunity. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll make sure I put the links, both the audio and the video.
Awesome. Thanks.
No problem. So that's all for the Crypto Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on cryptopodcast.org. Until next week, take care.
So I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. You'll find everything about me on bio.link/podcaster with all my podcasts, and you'll find it you see in the QR code in the graphic that's shown. I'd like again to thank my sponsors. So if you or someone you know struggling with anxiety and want to know how to be 100% anxiety free in 6 weeks without therapy or drugs, Daniel Packard's Anxiety Solution Program company offers a 6-week system that permanently solves anxiety at an astounding 90% success rate. People who join the program only pay at the end once they have clear, measurable results. If you're interested in learning more, go to permanentanxietysolutions.com, where you can book a free consultation with Daniel. Do you fight blood pressure and or want to get off the meds? Doctors are amazed at what Zona Plus can do. You can get a $50 discount with my code ROY, zona.com/discount/ROY. And you'll see it in the QR code as well as Daniel's QR code. Quality manufacturer of metal products for telecommunication and workshop equipment and other metal materials. You see the brochure there in the QR code, and let me know if you would like a quotation, shipped internationally at very competitive price. I'd like to thank all my sponsors and also all my listeners. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, really helps. And I also have a video on how to give a 5-star rating, because a lot of people have wrote to me asking me that they don't know how to do that. Until next week, take care.